Hello everybody, this is the Stormy Poet coming to you this wonderful evening. I hope you're having a wonderful day, night, whatever time it is you're listening to this. I hope your day is filled with positivity. I, of course, am the author at rootofalllove.com, which gives relationship advice within the confines of how race has affected relationship, racism, more specifically systematic white supremacy. I really feel like that's not being talked about enough as far as how racism has affected, systematic racism has affected romantic relationships, specifically here in America. I'm very glad you could join me this evening. And what I wanted to talk about tonight was something I'm not really hearing being talked about. And you see it everywhere, especially, I've been listening to your Tariq Nasheeds and your Antonio Moores and your Yvette Carnells. And Tariq touched on it briefly, and I really like what this brother said. He cited this article from, I believe it was from The Griot. It was from that website, The Griot. And I've linked articles from The Griot and a lot of the blogs I've written on thestormypoet.com. So it's independent writers, and they have independent writers come and write whatever they need to say and all that. And I respect those writers respectively, and they're independently. I know that on Huffington Post, Black Voices, Antonio Moore has stuff on there, and I respect the daylights out of Antonio Moore and the information he's distributing into the community. But that article Tariq was talking about, the title of it was something along the lines of how to, I think it was like 9 types of white men to be attracted to, or how you can get a white man, or something like that. And it was talking to black women. And that's disgusting because, and Tariq touched on this, Tariq Nasheed did touch on this. He said, you literally have a 17-year-old who got shot in the back by a police officer recently. You can Google it, for running away from evading a police officer who, and the guy got sworn in not too long. It was I can't remember. I think it was like 24 hours or something crazy like that. No more than 2 days. He had got sworn in hours before he went and shot and murdered and executed this 17-year-old who was non-violent, didn't have any weapons, was running away, and shot him in the back. And he got fired. We all know what fire means. It just means he got transferred. He didn't get fired. He's going to be on the police force again. I guarantee you, he's not going to do any jail time. He's going to get off on it. And that whole narrative of like I felt my life was in danger, that you can't even apply that to this situation. So all you Blue Lives Matter folks, don't even try to come with that. But what I wanted to talk about, and to go back to the article, is the whole promotion of you should go get you a white dude and all this, and how you can attract white men. There's these issues that affect us, that are affecting us, African American descendants of slaves, DOS. I like that terminology that Yvette uses. We're in a state of emergency, and these are the types of things you're writing about. Like, we are in a state of emergency as far as the wealth gap goes, as far as mass incarceration, as far as police brutality, as far as miseducation. In so many areas we're hurting, and these are the types of things you're talking about and writing about. I invite you to go to thestormypoet.com and show me any article where I wrote anything like that. Show me anything where I wrote something just this that wasn't relevant, that wasn't some vital information that we needed to know in order to challenge, to even begin to even have the mind frame of challenging what's against us. We don't have time for that. And to touch on the little the whole, you should go get your white daddy, you should go get your white mama, you should go get you some white, whatever, sex. I need y'all to peep game on that. I need you to understand the real implications behind that, because I've been watching, I watch different shows just for, just to critique it a lot of the times. Let's watch stuff just to critique it, just to see and confirm what I know, what messages I know these shows are trying to push. So I recently watched Dear White People season 2, and if you watch this show, I was peeping this, the only successful relationships, and Sam is just really just obsessed with this white dude, this hipster looking white dude, and they really push that. They really push that a lot. She just can't get over this dude. Ain't no good black men, just no good black men. Ain't no good brothers whatsoever willing to, be with her. They push that whole interracial narrative a lot in Dear White People. Now, be in love with who you're in love with, obviously, but we can't deny when there's a pattern here of actually promoting that. And that's everywhere. If you look at a lot of shows right now, there's a lot of shows with interracial relationships, and they just kind of keep pushing that. When I would ask, my Root of Love family, when was the last time you see, besides Blackish, and Blackish, I kind of have my quarrels with that, but the show Blackish, but when was the last time on TV you've seen a successful black relationship with a black man and a black woman portrayed, excuse me. I can't, I'll give you a minute, because I can't think of any without some type of dysfunction. They gotta be, a drug dealer, or they gotta be a pimp and a prostitute or something along those lines. I can't think of any, really. Yeah, and what's the motive behind that? Why don't you see any of that, especially it being a popular show? So what I wanted to talk about tonight is, and I'm sure many of you have seen this. I'm sure, if you are a black woman, and you've probably seen this with the black dudes that want, white women. They only date white women. They only talk to white women. They only entertain that. They don't really they don't really check for sisters. And then I'm pretty sure vice versa with the brothers. I'm pretty sure it's vice versa. You've, seen that one, or not one, but you've seen, that those women that you go to their Facebook and they're cool with a bunch of white people. And this is not just excluded to relationships, what I'm talking about tonight. This is if you're one of those people who have pretty much mainly white friends and white people that you hang around. Why are you hanging around just that demographic? What have you ever questioned that? And I get it, your friends with your friends. I have white friends. The thing though about me and my white friends is I get around them talking the same thing I do around black people. When I'm around anybody, I don't sugarcoat nothing. We're living under systematic white supremacy, and I don't pull punches or make them feel comfortable, whether it be subconsciously or consciously. Because here's the thing, living here in America, as someone who's classified as African American or black, we've been kind of psychologically conditioned to make white people feel comfortable when they're around us. We've been conditioned to use certain language. We've been conditioned to talk a certain way. I know that as a heterosexual black male, if I a lot of people, and I can tell this just because people have flat out told me, but then also I can see people's reactions. Typically, and this was the case for my dad. My dad had a very deep, manly voice. It was very deep, and it shook the whole house. If my dad got mad and even slightly raised his voice, the walls would shake. Most black men have a really deep voice. Psychologically, you have to understand the social conditioning that's against black males. Black males have been portrayed as violent, have been portrayed as rapists, and having this sexual appetite that just can't be satisfied. We've been portrayed, I keep saying betrayed, sorry about that. We've been portrayed as basically these savage beasts. That's what the movie kind of King Kong was kind of talking about. And the thing is, we have to understand the social engineering that's against us, and what people have been subconsciously taught about who we are. So if you're a black man, you typically got a really deep voice. That's just what that is. And if that voice gets too high or above what's the norm, people start perceiving you as dangerous. Because that's what society has told about us. That you're yelling, that you're screaming, that you're about to do something violent. So that's what we've been taught about ourselves too, and we pick up. It's very subtle. You don't really you don't really know that it's happening to you. I didn't know all the things I was subliminally taught till I became a 30-something-year-old man. I'm just now learning about this. I'm like, oh, that's why when I went around white folks and started talking a certain way. I remember when I was in the 6th grade, there was a black girl named Keisha on my school bus. I rode bus number 42 to Duncanville Intermediate School, or I think it was Bird or whatever. Can't remember. It was Intermediate Center or something like that. And I remember her talking to one of her friends, and she said, "Hey, y'all gotta admit," if she was talking to her friends just very casually, when y'all get around white people, y'all start talking white. Now this is back in 6th grade. We're like 11, 12 years old, and she's saying this. You start talking white, which she meant you start talking proper. You start talking proper English. Okay, what makes that white? And that's my whole point. She was taught that at such a young age, and we're taught these messages about ourselves at such a young age. And one of the messages is that we ain't worth nothing, that one of the messages is that we're less valuable than white men. That white men are just, they're harder workers, that they're more disciplined, that they're more pure. This is the type of stuff I talk about with my white friends. If your white friends can't handle this, you don't need to be friends with them. If this is anybody. If you're friends or you have a spouse that's any other ethnicity and they can't handle this kind of talk, because this is your reality. If you're African American descendants of slaves, this is your reality. So what I want to touch on. I'm trying to stay on topic. There's so much to add into that. I'm trying to stay on topic. What I want to talk about tonight is people who only date one kind of ethnic group. I don't like using the term race because race is not accurate. Race is a construct. But if we're going to kind of speak in that language, those who only date white, those who only date black, a lot of you white women out there, I only date black guys. The black guys is just what I want. We'll touch on that in a minute. But this is for people who only date one kind of race. Now, as I begin the discussion, I do acknowledge that there are preferences, and preferences are confined as far as physical preferences. Because if you only date, a certain race, or you're only attracted to a certain race, that's physical. That's their physical appearance. Excuse me. That's their physical appearance. not, their personality, not their, their attributes, their integrity, how hard they work, how, how much they're fighting for righteousness and putting in the work, because that's a determining factor too of somebody's attractiveness. We're just strictly talking about physical attractiveness. Now, I do understand that there's preferences. I get that, and that's fine, but to an extent. I'll get on that in a minute. Now, there's also people a lot of times get preferences confused with fetishes. Now, fetishes is where you have this sexual fantasy that you're trying to fulfill, regardless of what it is. You're just trying to fulfill a fantasy. That's just infatuation. So if you only, if you're a black male, you only like white women, and you just, you're really not trying to get to know that woman deep. You're not trying to get to know her core values. You're not trying to get to know her as a human being, as an individualistic being. And that's just a fetish. You're just fetishizing her white skin. So I want to break those two things down first. Now, if you're one of these people who only dates a specific race, or we'll use the term race for the sake of this conversation, but if you're one of those people, I would pose the question: why do you just like that race? Now, some people would say, well, that's just what I like, and, I can't really explain that. Okay, I get that. Cool. But being that we live under systematic white supremacy, which operates through which basically propagates itself through everything that we watch and hear and see and all that, you have to take that into account as well, as far as like what you like. You have to take into account maybe that affected your choice in that matter. Or maybe that kind of had some kind of influence on what you're attracted to. Now, when I was a kid, I would see a lot of stuff on TV, like soap operas and stuff like that. I had to watch what my parents watched. We only had one TV in the crib, so I had to watch what they watched. I would see like sex scenes and stuff like that. I would just see white people. So for a very long time, I was attracted more to white. I was kind of taught that was appealing. I remember we were watching a movie, and my cousin, it was one of my cousins, my first cousin, and I have multiple cousins, but we were watching some type of movie, and there was a sex scene, and my cousin was kind of enjoying it. He wasn't doing anything perverted, but he was enjoying it, and one of my girl cousins was like, "Yeah, you like them white girls?" And he was like, "What? The white looks better." You see what I mean? This is when we were kids that we were kind of taught this. And that's what I mean. It's very subtle. It's very sleek. It's very covert what we're taught. Now, fast forward. You're a grown man. You've been taught this your whole life. It's still getting taught, by the way. I just use that example of dear white people. Samantha, that character just can't get over this white dude. He's just all that. They got in this big old fight in one of the scenes, and she still was like, "I miss you," and he's flat out like really not understanding how systematic white supremacy works, and she still wants to be with this dude. The hell with that. Forget all that. Now, what I want to touch on first is the white women that only like black dudes. You only like black. You only like brothers, men of African descent. Now, I'm gonna get on y'all first because I've had experience with I've dealt with women like this. And, you know, I've even had, you know, this is a long time ago. I'm 32 going on 33 this week. My birthday's Thursday. So this was ages ago. Back in my younger 20s, I dealt with white women who was like, I only mess with black guys. For some reason, black guys like me and all that jazz. And I know some white women never really grow out of that, or never really get any kind of counter information as to why that they're, and that's, by the way, that's fetishizing. That's not love. That's not, oh, I'm just attracted to this particular ethnic group. If you only date brothers, like you refuse, you ignore a good white dude. If it's a good white dude willing to treat you right, now they got to be on have to have some outstanding character. And there's other things that determine if a man is a real man besides the money he makes and the security, but that's a whole nother podcast. But if they're a good dude, you need to entertain any good dude, not just because they black. And you can't, you're not supposed to ignore a good dude just because they're not black. So I want to touch on that first, because now I've personally heard women say that back in the day. And here's the thing with that. If you are a brother, and you know, you with a white woman, and if she said this or she hasn't, that's irregardless. If she's with you, and this is why I don't promote swirling. I'm all about being who you want to be with. Be with whoever you love, whomever compliments your being. But here's my thing. If you're with a white woman, someone classified as white, ask her, what do you think about black empowerment? Ask her, what do you think about police brutality? And not only what do you think about it, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do? What are you going to do with me? How are you going to get in the trenches with me and participate in these politics that are of the betterment of black folks? How are you going to be a part of the solution? You see, when you start talking that, when you start talking the data, when you start talking about what the wealth gap says, we was locked out of participating economically for centuries. And then we had to endure Jim Crow, which wasn't that long ago, relatively speaking. You got your boy Donald Trump in office, who just did this tax plan that is gonna gut a lot of the programs that black people actually collectively benefit from. It's only getting worse. What are you gonna do to help me rectify this issue and my people? If when you bring that to your those, and then race is not a real thing. I'm just using it for the conversation, the sake of the conversation. When you go to your white spouse or girlfriend and ask them that, see what they say. If they aren't willing to get in the trenches with you, I'm not even just talking about white women, I'm talking about every ethnicity. If they aren't willing to get in the trenches with you and fight this battle against white supremacy with you, they don't love you. They can love your dark skin. They can love, your whatever genitalia. They can love your lips and all that, and give you all these physical compliments and all this stuff. And you got such good rhythm, and you do what I like in bed and all that. Forget all that. If they aren't willing to go to bat with you, they don't love you, and you don't need to be with them. We take you to the Hotel Martinet in Brooklyn. Period. And same thing goes if it's a black. If there's some black women running from their blackness too. That's why I can't even say, well, you should date this race, you should date this race, because there's a lot of black folks who don't even want to deal with their reality. There's a lot of black people who don't even want to own up to basically that we dominate in every area of society. We're completely dominated. They don't even want to own up to that. They don't even want to deal with that. They'll talk to you about LGBT rights and immigration and all these other things because they don't want to deal with blackness, because they know what's up with that. They know what kind of yoke that is around our neck. They run away from that. So I just want to get on that group first and foremost. White women who only date brothers, all that. Forget all that. You either love somebody for who they really are and you accept their experience and you willing to do whatever it takes to support them, or you don't love them. You just fetishizing them. Real talk. Now the other group I want to get on is the black men who only date white women. Now I'm kind of piggybacking my other thought. It's the same principle. If you have to question yourself, why if you only date white women, that's a red flag you need to really evaluate. And what I mean by that is, if you only date white women, like, why? Have you ever asked yourself why? Why is that what you're attracted to? You see, it's okay to have preferences and stuff like that, but living under the system that we live under, you can't not ask why, because you've been subjected to so much social engineering and programming. You can't not ask why. Like, you don't get to do that. So I would ask you, why is it you just attracted to white women? Like, why aren't no sisters up on your radar like that? Like, I there was the whole Stephon Clark, the brother that got killed down in Sacramento, gunned down by police, and his old tweets came up about him saying, dark, and excuse my French, dark bitches bring dark days. His wife was, or his baby mama rather, was Vietnamese. His kids was half Vietnamese, half black. And his old tweets came up, and there was something about, Black Lives Matter ? What about my kids' lives? Don't they matter? All that stuff. And then he tried to run, and that was a brother trying to run away from his blackness, and he got shot up by the cops. Now, for you dudes, and I've seen this online before. I've seen dudes post stuff like this, but you dudes posting things like that kind of rhetoric. Why do black women bring dark days? Because it's easy to say, oh, black women are this and that. Okay, who taught you that? Where'd you get these messages of black women from? And if you're saying, well, it's women I've been around, and okay, well, women like that are in the hood, mainly. Women like that are in the ghetto, so you gotta upgrade your situation. You can't stereotype black women because you can't move around like that. You can't do that. You can't say, well, black women are like this when that's just the black women in your area, okay? What kind of experience with black women do you have in other areas, other cities, other states? If you've never moved around like that, you just have a scope of what's in your particular region. That's not fair. You can't judge black women based off that. You can't do that. What you're going off of is what you've been taught through TV and what you've been taught through rap music. Bitches ain't shit. Excuse my French for all my people listening, but that's what's said. They ain't worth nothing. They all liars. They all have this sexual appetite that just can't be, satisfied. They're having kids all left and right, and granted, that's unfortunately that's the consequence of white supremacy. We have a lot of kids out of wedlock, but that's what you've been taught to believe about them. So you treat them a certain kind of way, and you don't respect them enough, and you end up having unprotected sex with them, and then whatever. But you're taught that white women are more submissive, And this is especially heavy now. I'm starting to really see that narrative being pushed in interracial relationships. It's crazy, man. That's the thing. Who taught you that? I would invite you to ask yourself, who taught me that about black women? Is it just your personal experiences? Or have you just grew up, like I gave you that example earlier, have you just grown up always thinking that? Have you just grown up always thinking that, and when you interact with black women, do you already have that on your mind frame? Like, do you already are you already looking at them through that lens? Because here's the thing: if you're a black male, you have, the older you get, the longer, the more you have. The older you get, the more you have to unlearn. I'm unlearning at 32 years old. Literally decades of what's been taught about me and the women who look like me. And I can tell you all that is a lie. All that is a complete lie. Black women ain't submissive, BS. That's just a lie. Black women ain't feminine and soft and all that. That's a lie. Black women ain't caring. It's a complete lie. I was raised by black women. That's a lie. I wouldn't be the man I am today without the women in my life. My mom, my sister, my aunt Regina, my grandmother. I wouldn't be the man I am today. They empowered me to become the brother you see before you. The stormy poet. I couldn't have got to where I was without them. They nurtured me and cared me. Like, look, I remember one time I got sick. This is when I was living in Mississippi. I got sick with the flu or some kind of crazy cold or something. I remember something was going around. And I was living with my aunt at the time. And I came home from school sick as a dog, had a temperature, all that. And my auntie came in, and my mom was living across the way. My mom was living with, my grandmother and my aunt lived next door, and she was living across the way. My aunt didn't even tell my mom what she was about to do. She wouldn't make me this chicken soup with the leg in there, and the chicken and the corn and some potatoes and some cabbage. And came to my quarters where I was staying at and said, "Hey, eat this, drink this, you'll feel better. Let me know if you need anything else, baby." And I'm sick as a dog. I'm like, man, this is going to take a couple of days. Tell me why I felt better the next morning. I mean, come on, man. She came through and hooked your boy up. I was better the next day. I was ready to go. I was chilling, man. Don't tell me about no black women ain't caring enough and nurturing enough and all that. Stop. They used to get black women, the white supremacists used to get black women to take care of their children. They know. That's a lie. All the stuff you've been taught about black women was a lie. They lied to you so that you would be against them, and so that they would get mad and be against us, and so that we would have all this infighting. I just did a podcast on that. All this infighting. So we can't mobilize and come together. We can't even come to the table and sit and talk because we hate each other. Stop giving white women preference. It's cool to have preferences, but at the end of the day, if there's a black woman and there's a white woman, and the white woman is not all that compatible, she's kind of compatible with you, and then there's the black woman and she's super compatible with you, and that's who you need to be with. Go be with the black woman. Stop giving curves and shit. Sorry, I didn't mean to cuss, but that irritates me. Stop making it a point to put sisters down. Stop posting on your Facebook, "Well, black women bring dark days" and all this stuff. Stop posting that. If that's your preference, cool, but don't go pump out the propaganda they want to get other black men to dislike black women. I saw something like that recently. When I get successful, I'm gonna do like Kanye and Get me a white woman. And that dude like, amen to that, brother. Man, come on. Stop doing that. If that's your preference, that's your preference. But why did you feel the need to get up here and propagate that and put that out into the universe? By the way, that person deleted that. Because they knew they messed up. Real talk. Now, the second group I want to touch on is the light skin, and this isn't, I'm not even gonna say light skin, but the black woman is, I just see it particularly more so with light skinned black women, those considered black. And every picture you post, every picture you post on Facebook is with white people or people non-black. I would even say that, people non-black, because there's a lot of people not classified as black, Latinos that identify with white. So you might say, well, I'm friends with this Latino person, but then they see themselves as white, and you really kind of still hanging with a white person. But if you in all the pictures on your Facebook and all that, and all the stuff you post about, like this, you posting about movies and, oh, this white guy is so fun, and I see that all the time. There's an array of people that follow me. There's an array of people that will post about movies. Black women specifically that will post about movies. I can't wait to see this fine white boy in this movie, and it's just all the time. And then when I have something to say about a teenager getting murdered and shot in the back, you're quiet. You're not gonna share that. You're not gonna share any of that. You're not gonna share what it means to be black in America. You try to avoid it. You post little liberal kind of comments, and share little liberal articles that are very PC and don't really dive into what we really need as a tribe. African American descendants of slaves. We need reparations. We need to be advocating for that. We need to be involved in politics. When I share that, you don't say anything about that. You post about this bearded white dude, but you won't say nothing about that. I find that troubling as hell. You up here taking pictures with your white friends and, oh, look at me over here. I'm having so much fun. Hashtag this. They don't care if you live or die. They don't care about the people who look like you that are dying and getting murdered with impunity, but you over here partying with them, having fun with them, and, oh, everything's okay, making them feel comfortable with this shit. That's what irritates me. If you have a white husband or boyfriend, or you have white male friends or whatever, female friends, whatever, and you talk about the same type of stuff I'm talking about around them, and they get uncomfortable and want you to, they start talking some, well, we just have to learn to love each other. They start talking that. We just have to learn to empathize. Let me tell you something. I can't remember the word this is, because it happens so much I can't even remember it. But this happened recently. I just posted about this recently, about that little black girl selling water without a permit. And that lady calling the cops on her. Let me tell you something. The reason they called the cops on us, and I had the cops called on me when I was like 12 years old for walking around with my headphones. Somebody called the cops on me and said I was throwing rocks off of a damn bridge and some cars passing on an underpass at the windshield. And they couldn't produce who, they couldn't show who was called it, but they were talking around the corner, some kind of crazy stuff like that. Just making stuff up. They stopped me and said I fit the description. And then on top of that, they said I had an accomplice with me. I was walking around this area for like 2 hours. I didn't see nobody. Just make stuff up. The reason they do this is because they know when the cops show up, they know that there's a chance that we will get shot and murdered with impunity. They trying to set us up to get murdered. And your white friends don't care about that shit? Or your boyfriend or your husband and all that? Like, come on, man. And you up here writing, they up here writing articles like that, writing articles like, well, this is the way you can get you a white man. No, forget all that. We're in a system of oppression. Every amount of energy, every amount of time we have, efforts needs to be spent on fighting that. It needs to be spent on how we can deconstruct that. Stop making your white friends comfortable. I'm tired of this, man. Stop making them comfortable. I've lost friends over this. I've lost plenty of friends. They weren't real friends anyway. My white friends know how I get down. They trying to learn, and they trying to be like, how can I help you? How can I help you? Okay, go read this book. I give them books to read. I give them articles to read. I give them stuff I've done to read and study on. And I say, hey, you need to go advocate at everywhere you go. Every level of politics, you need to advocate. There's an election going down in November. There's a congressional election. And your white friends need to know about that, because y'all, steady up here bashing Trump. Okay, who's going to get Trump out of office? Who's going to be a part of that process? They need to be on code with your ass. You over here partying and, making them feel good about themselves. And, we just need to love each other. If everybody loved each other like how we loved each other, wouldn't be no white supremacy. It don't work that way. I'm sorry to tell you. Real talk, man. And the last group that I'll touch on tonight, and I'm really going over longer than what I wanted to. And shouts out to Lisa Roberts. That's who did the beat in the background. That sister is on top of her producing game. Please check out. I'll pay a little, something for the tracks. And, if you have a podcast or something like that, hit her up and use her stuff and shoot her like a little money, man. She's good at what she does. But the last group I want to touch on is, and it's kind of, and I'm kind of piggybacking and segueing into it, but the last group I want to touch on is, if you're a white person and you have black friends talking the kind of stuff I'm talking, black friends, black boyfriend, black girlfriend, whatever, and they're talking this kind of stuff, understand it's in your best interest too. White supremacy affects white people in a negative way too. Las Vegas shooting was a prime example of that. If you want to understand more about that, go to my blog and thestormypoet.com. And there's an article I wrote called How White Terrorism Hurts White People Too. Go check that out. It's very well cited. I have links. It's all backed up with data. I don't deal with emotions and opinions and let's just sit around and just argue. No. Go look it up and research it. If they're a man enough or woman enough to come and be honest with you about what their experience is like, and they got the guts to come and tell you, and they're not trying to coon it up, and it ain't. What about black on black crime and black people's out there, man? I've been around spaces with white folks, and there's black folks there, and the black folks, I can see them trying to make them feel extra comfortable, and I'm like, man, shut the hell up, man. That's not gonna help you. That's not gonna save you. What about black on black crime? And we just need to. Like I saw on what was that show, The View, and there was Sarah Gilbert, the daughter of Roseanne, and they had her up there, and man, Whoopi Goldberg, man, just I can't stand that human being. That's Coon Queen number one. Coon Queen number. I mean, my gosh, man. They had Sarah Gilbert up there talking about Roseanne, and I'm so disappointed that she made this tweet, and I just didn't feel comfortable being a part of a show like that. They made it seem like this chick cured cancer or something. It was when she said that, the black women was just clapping and cheering. One of the hosts, and I don't even know their names. I don't know their names, so I don't watch that show. But she was just like, when you said that, when you tweeted that, it made me feel like we were in solidarity with one another, and that we were one, and that you really understand. Man, stop. The thing about the Roseanne, and to get off topic a little bit, and I wrote about this well before they even aired the first episode of the reboot. The whole goal of that show is to normalize the systematic racism. It's basically to normalize white supremacy. It's to normalize Trump. It's to normalize this administration. It's to normalize white terrorism. It's to normalize all that. They paint this narrative. We got to see both sides. There's two sides to everything. We need to still see both sides. No, there's right and there's wrong. There's evil, and then there's doing what's righteous. And I wrote about this well before that show even aired. ABC, in and of itself, airing that show was the first crime. Not Roseanne posting that racist ass tweet. Them airing that show was the problem. That was the issue, is them actually airing that show, and the reason that show is being aired. And I wrote about this. Go check it out on my thestormypoet.com. That's their whole reason. So when they canceled it, I'm like, that's weird. They need to push forward this propaganda. They need to make people okay with racism. Why did they cancel it? And then the other shoe dropped. They bringing it back. They're bringing it back without Roseanne. So what they're going to still do is push the same thing they were going to push when Roseanne was there, and they're just going to leave her out. And black women on that joint, the View cheering. And I saw that video just out of morbid curiosity, and they cheering this white woman on like she did really made some kind of progress. No, the message is still going to be delivered that this is totally normal. That this genocide that this administration is on is normal. It is not. Anyways, if you're white, and if you have black friends, if they're not talking under the stuff I'm talking, they're lost, and they really just don't understand reality. They don't know what they're involved in, how easily they can get touched. The white supremacists can come through and shut my channel down. They can come take my job. They can come take my money whenever they feel like it. I know that. These cops out here, they can come murk me. I got pulled over, not too long ago for some taillight stuff, and I'm like, I know this dude can walk up and shoot me and get away with it. That's why and Dr. Francis Quest Welsing said this, that's why we gotta be the most serious group on the planet. If you have white friends, this is the reality they deal with. If they're not talking about this with you, they're either in denial or they're just too stupid to know. If they are talking with you about that, respect that. Say, hey, and say to yourself, hey, they at least willing to reach out to me and say, this is the reality. I'm not going to coon it up for you. I'm not going to make you comfortable because I need to make you uncomfortable. Because I'm uncomfortable living under systematic white supremacy, and until I make you uncomfortable, you're not going to help me do anything about it. If your wife, your spouse, your baby mama is black, and they're not talking this language, you need to be like, hey man, I heard the Stormy Poet talking about this. Like, why have you never told me about this? If they are talking this language, you need to take it seriously. You need to respect that. If you're not willing to respect their reality, this is not a myth. This is not a theory. It's documented that white supremacy exists. If you're not willing to respect that and honor that, you don't love them. You just fetishize them. There's some exotic little, fantasy you have built up in your head, and I would say this to the black women and black men. This, if they fetishize you, you're really just a sexual kind of slave almost. You're just kind of like property. They use you to get off, and they don't care about you as a human being. They don't care about your people. They don't care about your mama. They don't care about your sister, your brother, your aunt, your sons. They don't care. They're cool with them getting murdered. Stephon Clark's baby mama, from what I heard, didn't even come to the funeral. That's what that is. So you have to look at things through that lens. And I'll end on this. I'm gonna wrap this up. This is getting kind of long. what I'll end on is date any ethnicity you want. Please feel free to do that, because like I said, race is a construct, it's a hustle. It was a con put in place to keep people European at the top. White people are European at the top. They let different groups in, and they can take different groups out whenever excuse me, my French, whenever they feel like it. So go be with whoever you want, whoever complements your being, but love that person because they are an individual that you admire, that you respect, that you cherish, that the good Lord made, God Almighty made for them to love you and support you specifically in your own way and to complement your being. Love them for that, not because they're a particular color. And if there's somebody that basically speaks to your spirit and compliments you, don't ignore them because they're not your preference. That's ignorant. That to me, that's sick. You're mentally ill at that point. If there's somebody who's compatible with you, and you just not choosing to entertain them because they're not the color you want, there's something sick with you. And that sickness was installed by systematic white supremacy. You've been taught it your whole life. Anyways, I just wanted to touch on that. I might do a part 2 to that. There's a lot to break down. I'm actually working on my third book that talks about that subject. I'm gonna go real in depth in that book, but I wanted to give give some context to that book and really dispel what I've been seeing, because I follow a lot of people follow me, but also they show up on my timeline and I see certain behaviors and I want to call it out, and that's why I like to be friends with a bunch of different diverse people, because I start seeing little patterns that I can call them out and kind of debunk the show. Anyways, that's been today's episode of the Levels of Love Tips. Very glad you could join me today. If you could, if in the kindness of your heart you want to keep stuff like this going, you want to keep this message going, please feel free to go to my description section and it will show you where you can make a one-time contribution. I don't ask for much. Anything you can give. You give me $1, I'm fine with that. You give me 99 cents. Any little bit helps. 25 cents, whatever. There's also a monthly subscription option where you can do $2 a month or $5 a month through PayPal. It takes it out of your account. You don't even know it's gone. That's like a cup of coffee. That's nothing. $2, $5, whatever you can give, I'm perfectly fine with that. And please subscribe. Please subscribe to my YouTube. Please subscribe to my blog, rootofalllove.com. Nobody else is talking about these kind of things. We need to know about these kinds of things in regards to dating and stuff, because a lot of the confusion in dating stems from systematic racism. So I want to keep getting the message out. I want to up my equipment so I can start doing more videos and stuff like that. I hope that you help me out in that regard. I really would appreciate it. And also, please feel free to check out thestormypoet.com. In any case, it's been a pleasure talking with all of you tonight. I hope you were able to take something away from this presentation. If you have any questions, any inquiries, if you would like to know more about my published works, please feel free to hit me up at T.S.P. at thestormypoet.com. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope everybody has a lovely day or evening, and I look forward to talking with you all in the future. One love. Peace.